Full story, all in one text. In the early 1980s, the state of Washington was already known for its quiet forests, rainy suburbs, and the peaceful flow of the Green River. But beneath that calm surface, a darkness was growing, a darkness that would eventually be linked to more than 49 confirmed murders, and potentially over 70 victims, making this case the most deadly serial murder investigation in United States history. This is the story of the Green River Killer, and the decades-long hunt to stop him. Intro: The Discovery. On July 15, 1982, a father and his son were riding along the Green River, just south of Seattle. The boy spotted something floating near the bank. At first glance, it looked like a mannequin. But as they got closer, the awful truth appeared. It was the body of a young woman. She had been strangled and thrown into the river. Police arrived, and as they began to search the surrounding area, more bodies appeared, some in the water, some hidden in the woods. At first, detectives hoped they were dealing with a small number of murders. But within weeks, the count climbed and climbed. By the end of 1983, over a dozen women had been found. Many were teenagers. Many were sex workers. All had been strangled. A task force was formed, and the hunt began. Early life of the killer. To understand the man responsible, we must go back to the childhood of Gary Ridgway, born in 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. As a child, he struggled with severe learning difficulties. He tested in the lowest percentiles, and some psychologists would later describe him as having borderline intellectual functioning. His home life was chaotic. Ridgway's mother was described as overbearing and controlling. She had an explosive temper, and her intense domination left a psychological scar on Gary. He later admitted he fantasized about killing her. At school, he was bullied constantly. He wet his bed until his early teens, and his mother would shame him for it, sometimes washing him angrily in the bath. These disturbing early experiences formed the foundation for his later violence. At age 16, he stabbed a young boy, leaving him bleeding under a tree. The boy survived, but the attack was never fully investigated. Ridgway would later join the U.S. Navy, get married, and begin a pattern of marital problems, sexual addiction, and frequent visits to sex workers. These behaviors became part of the psychological fuel that later exploded into serial murder. The murders begin. Between 1982 and 1984, Ridgway began stalking the streets of Seattle and Tacoma. His victims were among the most vulnerable: runaway teenagers, sex workers, and young women living unstable lives. His method was simple and deadly. He picked women up in his truck. He drove them into the woods. He strangled them, often with his bare hands, and he dumped them like trash in remote areas. Many of the victims were left in clusters, now known as dump sites. Some bodies were posed. Some were covered with leaves. Others were left in the open, as if he wanted them to be found. This pattern created fear throughout the region. But it also created confusion. The killer was careful, and the investigation was falling behind. The task force. By 1984, the Green River Task Force became one of the largest serial killer investigations in American history. Detectives, FBI agents, psychologists, and forensic specialists joined forces. Among them was a young detective named Dave Reichert, who would later become sheriff. He spent decades chasing one man, the ghost of the Green River. The FBI brought in special profilers. Even Ted Bundy, sitting in a Florida prison awaiting execution, wrote to the task force offering help. Bundy's insights, chilling as they were, turned out to be surprisingly accurate. He told investigators the killer likely revisited dump sites and might engage in necrophilia. He was correct. But even then, Ridgway remained free. A close call. 1983. In 1983, police interviewed a man who seemed suspicious. His name was Gary Ridgway. He admitted he picked up prostitutes often. He admitted he had been in the same areas where victims disappeared. But he denied ever harming anyone. Detectives didn't have evidence. He was released. He had slipped through the cracks. The killer evolves. By the mid-80s, the murder rate slowed. Ridgway became more cautious. He married again. His new wife believed he was a loving husband. No one around him suspected anything. Yet Ridgway continued killing. Sometimes once a month. Sometimes once a year. His rage never left him. He only learned to hide it better. He became an expert at appearing normal. A friendly neighbor. A hard-working truck painter. A man who mowed his lawn and waved at strangers. But at night, he hunted. Forensics catch up. 4 years, lack of advanced DNA technology left the investigation cold. But in the late 1990s, forensic science advanced dramatically. In 2001, detectives retested evidence from the early 80s. This time, microscopic droplets from the victims' bodies provided something investigators never had before: a match. DNA found on multiple victims belonged to Gary Ridgway. After nearly 20 years of fear, uncertainty, and trauma, the hunt was over. Ridgway was arrested on November 30th, 2001. The confession. Facing overwhelming DNA evidence, Ridgway agreed to confess in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. Over months of interviews, he revealed the truth the world had feared. He didn't just kill 49 women. He didn't even know the true number. He said, "I killed so many women, I can't remember. I stopped counting." He confessed to strangling women in his truck, in the woods, even at his home while his wife was at work. He confessed to returning to the bodies. He confessed to targeting victims he believed would not be missed. His calmness shocked detectives. He showed almost no emotion, no guilt, no empathy. The courtroom. In December 2003, Ridgway stood in court as the judge sentenced him to 48 consecutive life sentences without parole. Eventually, another victim was identified, raising the confirmed count to 49. Family members of victims confronted him, screaming, crying, demanding he look at them. Ridgway stared forward, expressionless. But when one father said, "I forgive you," Ridgway broke down crying, the only time he showed emotion. It left many wondering, was he truly moved? Or was it just another performance? Aftermath. Even after his sentencing, the case continues to haunt Washington state. Many victims were never found. Some may never be identified. Ridgway is believed to be the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. He remains in prison today, an aging man, but still holding secrets. Legacy of fear. The Green River case changed American law enforcement forever. It pushed forward advancements in forensic technology, improved coordination between agencies, and highlighted the dangers facing vulnerable women. But the emotional impact, the pain carried by families, cannot be measured. For nearly 20 years, one man stalked the shadows of Seattle, choosing victims no one protected, removing them from the world with cold and calculated cruelty. This is not just the story of a serial killer. It is the story of a failure to protect the vulnerable, a story of obsession, a story of justice delayed but finally delivered. And it is a story America will never forget.